I always like an intro, but we can intro each other too if you want.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, heck, I'll give it a spin around the block. I mean, I am Chris Hedden here with David Red, also of the Substack platform. Kind of just cool to hang out and do a little bit of like a casual like sit down format. It's really cool to also catch up with you because I
Yeah,
mean, for those of you at home who probably don't know, I mean, you and I first worked on a collaboration back in 2016 for a different project of yours, which feels like a lifetime ago.
a lifetime ago. Yeah, we I guess we met just through the blogosphere, right? Back of the ancient days.
That's what I was thinking.
And Chris just found some of my early music that is no longer on the internet.
It's like same but different.
Yeah, same but different. An evolution in a good way, but stays true to what we were always where we were always coming from.
And I don't know if you want to mention the name or
Sure,
not,
yeah. I
but
mean, it's an old one. It was called Carolina Seems So Long Ago, which it does, and that came out in like 2016.
I mean, yeah, I kind of wanted to mention it just because it feels like a
Yeah,
perfect tie-in.
yeah. I saw that you were still writing, still doing beautiful reviews, and just writing about the music industry. Came back across your work and was excited to share that. Hey, I've got another EP coming out. So it was really amazing that
I mean, what timing,
yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah.
like
The
that
universe
that
works in
couldn't have been
mysterious
more
ways.
perfect. Right, exactly. Like to hear from you and be like, "Oh, you've got this, this great this thing coming out," and it was such a cool thing to me. It just for a lot of reasons. You're making this EP, called "Not All by Itself," and you have this coming out, and usually when you hear from somebody, and especially in the indie circle or whatever, it's like, oh, this is their main thing, like their main body of what they're doing, like right at that moment. So I thought it was really interesting to me to like know that you had just had this other full album. I mean, if you want to talk about that as well, that had just come out back in June. It was like, you felt like I was coming back in time to work with Mr. Prolific.
Yeah. Well, it felt like, and it's an extension of it, right? So that's where the title comes from. Is the title of the album is "Love Is Everything and It Will Not Save You," and I always kind of had the full phrase "Love is everything and it will not save you," not all by itself. And so actually, if you go on Spotify and you check out the album, there's a little intro song to the album that's like a 12-second organ craziness that just kind of intros us into the album. That's also called "Not All by Itself." So that idea had always kind of lived with me because the background for all of this was I fell in love during the pandemic. I met my wife. I kind of had a crazy story of traveling back and forth between France and the United States, um, trying to make this
By the
love
way,
happen.
anybody at home, you should check out David's Substack for that because I
Thank
was
you.
reading that to get fully acquainted with it. Yeah, I mean,
It's a
like
wild story.
storybook story.
It's a wild story,
Yeah.
and it's really been hard to reconcile because I have this kind of fairy tale dream come true thing, but like I'm still living my life and it's not that easy. And like there's still so much, even though I'm so grateful for the relationship that I have, and I'm so grateful for that kind of fairy tale. I still got so much work to do, and so this idea that we're always sold of like happily ever after, happily ever after might be true, but happily ever after is like a long time of living the rest of your life and it's still being challenging. And so that idea of love is everything, it totally is. I've been changed by it, but now I have this love, and so I have to do something with it, and that's the hard part. And that's not become any easier. I mean, maybe it's become a little bit more comfortable, and I have somebody beside me to support me in that work, but it's still on me to go save myself, to still go do the thing that I'm supposed to do. And so I don't know. This felt like a kind of a companion piece. The other part of the album, it's very complex. It's very dense. It's got a bunch of live instruments on it, full band, with horns and flutes and all sorts of craziness. Plus, we layered in a ton of just samples and interesting sounds, and it's it very much wanted to be this unique and weird and kind of over the top soundscape because that was the time. Everything was very a lot and in your face and anxious, and so I feel like it sounds like that. But then, as somebody who comes from a singer songwriter background of like a dude with a guitar, I just wanted to say, hey, can I take some of these songs and just be with a guitar for a second. And so we stripped them all down, got rid of everything digital, sat in front of literally a tape machine from the 60s or 70s. I forget. It's an Ampex. I don't remember the model of it, but all vintage equipment and all very like simple setup. And I just wanted to do that as like kind of bare bones, rudimentary, foundational as possible, both as like a test to myself, but also because it felt like that was the sort of the natural aftermath of making a very dense, complex album. It's like, all right, well, let me give you the also just the let the stories speak for themselves version.
Yeah, that's what's so interesting to me about it because I mean, obviously, I went in full bore with the EP part of it because I mean, it's the what we're reviewing, what we're talking about, the crux of the biscuits, if you will. But like, it was so interesting to like see the three songs because with this EP, it is three songs from the record back in June, and then it's a new song.
Yep.
I was really immediately like it shifts you in a way, like kind of like you were saying, where like you're hearing one kind of emotion in this really bare bones way, and then you're kind of going to the full band full version of it, and you're really hearing it as like a whole like you said, sort of like almost like symphonic, almost like this whole like layered presentation. It almost like shocks you in a way,
Cool.
and
I like shocking
I'm just
people.
kind of so fascinated that yeah that you kind of had that instinct to then go, okay, I want to kind of break that down and kind of just break the shell completely and do these couple of songs. I mean, was that kind of purposeful in like the pre-existing songs, like I want to pick these particular ones to really bring down to the roots and kind of do in
Yeah.
this format? I mean, was it a picking your favorite child kind of a scenario? Like, how
It
did
wasn't
that
a
kind of
favorite
come to
child. I think
be?
there was some. I like the idea of that, but I think it was there was some like strategy, I guess, behind the fact that I wanted songs like there are a couple of songs that are more acoustic and stripped on the full record that didn't feel like they needed this treatment. You know what I mean? Um, and so I picked songs that felt like we could get a very different side out of them by stripping them down. So like for instance, the biggest example of that for me is the song The End. The End on the full record, I wrote that on a piano actually when I wasn't a very good piano player. So I kind of wrote that just like banging my left hand on a bass line. And so much of what's on the record is this really cool bass line and then like Stevie Wonder style clavinet and horns and synths, and there's actually no guitars on The End on the record, which is my producer Justin Glasgow is like, dude, you're a guitar player? Why aren't you playing any guitars? And there was something to me at that time, just to be honest, to where I was at. I was so bored of playing the guitar. I wrote this during the pandemic. I didn't want to touch a guitar, and so it's just got all of these different layers to it. But it's a blues, you know. And so
That's so interesting.
there was something
Yeah.
really cool to be able to go, okay, let me just like strip it down, play it like a blues, and then I think the other piece of it was um, there's something about that song. It's very, I hate to call it a political song because I don't think it's political. There's nothing like partisan about it. I think it's something, it speaks to a lot of things that are broken with our system that I think like 85% of the country or the world would probably agree with, right?
Right.
And so I wanted there to be something kind of unifying about that, a bit of a rallying cry. It's not an us versus them. It's kind of like it's not a left right, it's an up versus down, you know? And
Right.
so
Yeah.
in stripping it down, we also got something really kind of swampy and bluesy, you know. So it's me and my longtime guitarist Zach Ross, and he played a dobro, and it's got that kind of
I was
Delta
gonna say I hear a
blues
little
thing to it.
slide like work in
Yeah,
there.
and so it feels very like down. It feels southern, and it feels like kind of down home porch music, and that felt really important too because I'm from New York, but I spent 4 very formative years in the South, and I love it down there. And I don't know, I think it's music that connects all of us. So I wanted to have a version of this song that also felt like this could resonate with another type of person, that it could resonate in a different way, that it could kind of speak musically a different language, even though it's the same song. So there was a little
That's
bit of
what,
that.
yeah, that's what it kind of feels like. Yeah, where you're really like, and that's a really interesting thought. I think musically that maybe we don't consider when it's like the hit song on the radio, or it's something that it's one form. We know it as one thing all the time, 100%. And really, when you take certain songs and you pull them apart and things like it's interesting, like you said, you coming up from New York, but like Carolina so long ago. I mean, having that reference even like that to like the end, like you said, it really turns it into like that southern swampy kind of thing, and kind of that real country folk element where a lot of like you said, not politically partisan or it's more speaking like Woody Guthrie or
Right.
like
Yeah,
Pete Seeger, like truth to power kind of stuff.
absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's like folk music is for folk, like for people, right? That's really what if you go all the way
Right.
back to like the German, like that's what it means, right? It's about people. And yeah, I wanted that song to feel like folky in the sense that like anybody could sit down and sing it, anybody could sit down and play it, kind of comes just from the people. And yeah, to strip it down with just two guitars and a little bit of like a country blues to it, like that felt what was right, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about it too, because I mean, for anybody at home, I mean, you kind of think about it as like, oh, okay, so you've got an interesting approach here. It's acoustic. It's it's got the creaks and cracks and the little in little perfect little breakages or whatever
It's
kind
clanky,
of
man. It's
poeticism you want to
clanky.
put around it.
That's just how it sounds, right?
But it's interesting to me kind of going through the journey of it, because even in that format you're really in a lot of different places in four songs. I mean, everything is very like different. Like I feel like with you're starting with Jitney Bus Blues, and you're kind of like this like Bob Dylan-y kind of almost like figure, kind of talking about this like character display, and then you're kind of moving through these other paths of like love and sensitivity and people and folks. So it's so interesting to me that it has such like unique like deep characterization in there too.
Thank you. Yeah, that's this will probably not be the reference that you're anticipating, but I feel like Rosalia was a huge influence for me in that. I listened to her, not her most recent record that just came out.
Really.
Yeah, but her last record, Motomami, is another masterpiece. I'm not like a big reggaeton Latin music fan, and I just came upon this album. And what she does amazingly in that record is it's like she's moving from genre to genre, going through all these different styles, almost putting on a new character in every single song, but that character is still clearly her. There's like this one unifying thing that's her voice, but she's like stepping into different outfits for every different song. And it's so cool what she does. High praise. Rosalia, I think, is like one of the real ones. If you haven't caught on yet and you think she's pop, go. She is pop in the best way.
I
And
yeah, I mean, I'm glad to hear the recommendation, because literally being on Substack, I mean, we'll certainly bring it up a lot throughout this. I mean, just being so much of this story in getting us back together and all that stuff. I have seen so much like complimenting and praising her latest work. Like I heard about it, but then seeing it is like makes you
go
stop
turn
and go
turn the
like,
lights
oh,
down, put it on, prepare yourself for 45 minutes of it's serious. And I think not to get too far afield, but I think what she taught me and is like a lesson for everybody is again this idea that um, you can like step into a song and that can shift and move throughout an album and still stay like centered in the fact that like it's not inauthentic. She's not like putting on a mask in a way that's like distancing you from her. She's just stepping into here's this kind of song, and then here's this kind of song. And I think for her, I found it's like a way of her like representing different aspects of her personality or different aspects of femininity or different aspects of like what the culture wants of her. And so for me, I also thought of like, all right, I can do some of this for you now, and I can do some of that for you now, and I can kind of weave through all of these different multitudes of my personality to give you a bigger whole. Because I'm not one thing.
I think that's so it's such an important thing to note with this because I know I'm sure we'll get into it too, the bigger story of talking about kind of rejecting the technological side and doing things very much human and by the perfectly imperfect kind of book that things are like, oh, an acoustic record somebody does, like, oh, they play live in front of some people or they do a thing, and it's like, oh, it's one mood, it's an acoustic thing, it's like this like unifying like one placeism kind of thing. But really, yeah, where you're finding yourself there is that's a thing that really drew me too, is like you're like the moods again, it's that mood cycling where it's like even down to like how your vocals are coming across, even down to the style of the guitar playing, the subjects and things. And it really sort of redefined my picture of it in a way where it's like you can put together this thing that is multiversatile and multi, path filled without needing a whole, jungle of instrumentation and all these different things.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just so fascinating, and that and I mean really just getting down to just that you chose to go in that path after making such a very lush record this way.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, in some ways, and a lot of this thinking goes back to the original writing of the album, and so then I think it translates then into the EP. But when I was writing the album and writing a lot of these songs, and how I was thinking about them was, attention spans are short, man. People are used to scrolling through from a video of an ice raid to a puppy to somebody baking a cake to, you know what I mean? Like, so we're constantly
Right. The,
getting
the
new.
TikTok algorithm of it
Yeah,
all.
right. And so I'm not trying to play to the algorithm, but I am trying to recognize the realities of our age, right? And so I wanted something that felt like we're shifting kind of rapidly from one place to the next, because that's how the world feels these days. And so I felt there was an opportunity to represent that. Also, artistically, that allowed me the opportunity to, like I was saying before, play with different characters, but also play with different genres, play with different moods, play with different styles. Um, I think, and it's also a little bit of like a mini rebellion for me, because the algorithms prefer us to be one thing and to do that over and over again, because that's how they know who you are. Okay, you're the acoustic guitar guy that does kind of like sad folk. Great, we'll get you all the sad folk boys. Me, I'm like, fuck that.
I just talked about this recently with like Mumford and Sons, like how I mean that was a big part of bringing that movement out, but it then kind of spawned a lot of these similar kind of faces
Right.
and voices going, okay, I can just do that kind of thing
Stomp clap all
too.
day, baby.
And right, it was like the meme going around where they were dropping the banjo like an EDM beat at a
Yeah.
concert festival.
Yeah, and so I think for
Yeah,
me, it feels like it's important also to just recognize the different influences of music that I have, recognize the different styles of music that I love, recognize the different styles of myself that are important. I'm not the same person every day I wake up. I don't wear the same clothes. I don't have the same attitude. And I don't feel the same things every single. Some days I really need that sad folk song, and some days I need some hip hop, you know? And it's different.
yeah.
And it's so to shoehorn myself into just this one thing that I'm going to do for the full course of the record, that's not real. Versus I'm going to take the world breeds a certain schizophrenia these days, and it breeds, I think, a lot of like heightened feelings in different areas. And so that's where I felt like I was, some songs are angry and some songs are really soft and quiet and loving. And some songs are then kind of like cynical and funny, and then other songs are really touching and sweet. And like I feel all of those things, if not on a daily basis, certainly on a weekly basis. And so I wanted to kind of capture I wanted to capture that.
Yeah, like it's really like one minute it's like, okay, this is a character piece. Like, oh, maybe it's like, I'm telling the story of this person or this thing. And then it feels like, oh, wait, suddenly now we're like right there with you. And it feels like as real as day. Like it's like super close and up and personal. And then it's, characterization and different things and I mean and it's so interesting that you mention it like different kind of moods bringing that out because I found that even in like being a music writer and listener and all that stuff it's like last couple of years has been kind of my like rap and hip hop real like awakening and because I grew up on country and folk and the Beatles and Billy Joel and like all of these different things and Bonnie Raitt and blues and different stuff and then it's like you find these different parts of yourself and that's so interesting to kind of witness both in the sound of this and then like even where you're going as a writer compared to when we were talking in 2016. So I think we did like a little Q&A
Yeah.
email thing too back then.
Yeah, I mean, I think something that was really important to me on this record as well was I wanted to stop being so fully inward focused. I wanted to turn the lens outward. It just, frankly, I was tired of myself and tired of singing about my own problems. And it's not that that's not there. It's not like I'm not on the record, like my personal stuff. But I look, not to harp on this too much, but like we live in interesting times. And I think so much of what dominates my anxieties and what dominates a lot of people's just like day to day world experience is the craziness of the news, the rapid changes. I mean, a lot of this record was written during a pandemic, and during what felt like really like seismic changes in our understanding of our place in society. And so I felt a very important need to not just talk about me, but talk about the world. And then the interesting part of that was also, okay, so what of the world am I at liberty to speak to? Maybe liberty is the wrong word, but like, what about the world is my lens appropriate to focus on? You know,
Right. Yeah.
because there's a lot of people that want to
I
talk
get
about
that feeling
everything.
too with Teach Your Boys to Cry,
Right.
especially. Like, I felt like that was a very therapeutic way to approach that subject within that purview, that kind of that lens, like you're saying.
Yeah. If like I can speak to what it is to be a sensitive boy that doesn't know what to do with his feelings, and that's a way for me to help the world and as an artist and to like give something outwardly that's focusing the lens again not just on my own experience. This isn't me telling the first person narrative of this one time where I just like I'm really sad and don't know how to cry, but I can kind of put that outward for everybody, but it still clearly comes from my experience. It's still clearly something that I've dealt with and struggled with. um, that was another thing that also felt important to me too. Was I think there are certain songs that are like that me trying to sort of Bob Dylan things, right? Like write some characters, tell a story about some people. But then there are other songs that felt like they just wanted to be, I think of them as songbook songs, like Great American Songbook, not to put myself in that category, but in the sense that you can just put them in a real
In the
book
style, yeah.
and anybody can sing them. And here's the song, it's for you. And so Teach Your Boys to Cry was definitely one of those as well, where it's not, there's no first person pronouns in there. It's a man, a woman, anybody could sing that song, and that feels important.
Yeah, no, I think it really does too. I mean, I think especially in 2025's version of, society and having been through and gone through the therapeutic process and sat down with people to analyze those kind of things myself, it's interesting to then hear someone else like vocalize that in a really public way, which kind of gives you that feeling of like, okay, you know, you're not alone with it, which is, I think, a really big thing. And, you know, to be open and honest, where I think we still need that to be the case, especially where we're still kind of learning to be more sensitive and to be more open and to be more, you know, a little less internal and those kind of things. But it's interesting to me as well that that was the new song for this record. Did that kind of come out in between the last one and this one?
Yeah. Honestly, it was I wrote that song after I'd finished tracking everything for the record, and I just kind of felt it needed to I needed to do something with it. In some ways it was the impetus for the whole EP because I just felt like, all right, I need to record the song. I need to record it fast. And I want to do something more with it down the road. I want to record it in a more full setting. But I don't want to like self-aggrandize, but I have to believe that what I'm doing is helping and is good for the world. I have to believe that, or else why do it, right? Why suffer? Because it's not. I suffer for this shit, you know. I put myself through the ringer,
Right.
not in any like terrible way, right? But my emotional and mental health suffers by the choice to be a musician and to put things out into the world. So I have to believe that I'm doing something that is good and helpful. And I came on this song, right? Like this song was not something that I planned and sat down. Was like I need to write a song about male sensitivity. No, it just fucking popped out one day. And it felt really good, and I've played it in
Right.
front of audiences, and people have connected to it, and people have said, wow, that one really touched me. So I just felt I need to record it. I need to put it out into the world. I need to share it. And whoever finds it, finds it.
Yeah.
But I have to believe that this is how I can be of service.
No, I absolutely, you know, believe that as well. And having, like I said, kind of gone through the therapeutic process and seeing those things in myself where like once where it was like, hey, if you'd asked early 20s version of me versus like mid 30s version of me now, you know, like where it's like, oh yeah, we just self-internalize all those thoughts versus now where it's like, hey, we want to express those a little bit more, maybe put them on the line and kind of, you know, be a little bit more, um, not maybe self-aware, but outwardly aware.
Yeah.
And honestly, in its own way, it's you know it's very different from you know slowly straight to you, but it's interesting in how it kind of goes from like this you know, what did I say on Substack? It is like the love song you'll wish you'd written to like this other thing that still kind of carries in like that that like emotional like catharsis, that
Mm.
like gentle, you know, angular sensitivity to it as well. It's interesting how they kind of bookend in that way.
Yeah, and you know what? And I didn't necessarily do that on purpose. I think the flow, the sequence of the EP just kind of made sense the way it did. But it one of those beautiful coincidences. Because yeah, I think "Slowly Straight to You" is very much a song about me trying to deal with those internal demons, those turmoil, that feeling of really that song "Slowly Straight to You" to me is about the feeling of waiting for the other shoe to drop. Everything's going really well, so of course it's going to get screwed at some point, right? Like something's going to go wrong here, and I can't just accept that I deserve nice things. And so that was kind of the basis of that whole song. And so a lot of it is me in the lyrics of the song is me like reckoning with these feelings of being happy, of being content, of being in love, of of even being like in pain or being ridiculed or being outcast or being confused, but also being okay. And I think oftentimes we struggle to, like you said, to put that all out there on the line because it's not neat and tidy. It's not one thing. It's many things. Um, and so to then kind of go through all of that in "Slowly Straight to You," which is really a journey of a song. It goes through a bunch of different motions to then come to something very simple, "Teach Your Voice to Cry," which I think is a very simple song in a certain way. A lot of the lyrics, if you listen to the lyrics, they're almost like verging on fourth grade level simplicity, which is I think what makes it cool. but like, teach your girls to fight, not with their fists before what's right. It's a very almost playground kind of song, but I think the simplicity of it is what makes it powerful. And so to come out of that kind of complex roller coaster of a I love you and I'm happy, but I'm scared and I'm not sure, and to then just land on teach your boys to cry.
Yeah, hey, it's like the White Stripes with, I could tell that we're gonna be friends. You don't
Yeah.
kind of expect that, but there's that like innocence of almost like youth and kind of like going, okay, I'm gonna really crack open the egg here and really go like to these child sort of innocent, sweet innocent places where
Yeah.
like it's a different kind of vulnerability that not, like I said, a band like the White Stripes just breaking out that song is unexpected, but then you're like, wow, this really works at the same time.
Yeah. There's this quote that I really love. Let me make sure I get it right. But uh, it says, for the simplicity that precedes complexity, I wouldn't give a nickel. For the simplicity that follows it, I'd give my life. And so that whole idea of like you have to go through the complex stuff to then end up at the very simple thing. The simple thing that's just simple to begin with, whatever, right? But if you kind of go
No,
through that whole journey and then you wind up at something simple,
yeah.
that's the real shit.
It is, and one of the therapeutic processes that I've experienced is something called EMDR, which has a lot of like floating back through, or you can go through the present, or you can float to the past, or different things that kind of it free associates your
Mm-hmm.
mind a little bit, and I find that it really relevant because you dig through a lot of different things in your life when you're looking at, okay, this is why I feel like this about this or this about this kind of thing, but then you kind of get to a place where you feel the simple feeling, like it's like,
Mm.
oh, this was what, like, you know was the lightning bolt out of the sky. It's
Yep.
like it's not complex math.
Right.
It's just literally like this happened, and then this is why,
Right.
like,
I
I
was
don't
rejected and
feel
I feel sad. Period.
right. Exactly. It's those kind of simple things, and even just as we're talking about, it just makes so much sense with this, EP, and kind of putting that on the line in such a really authentic way. I mean, I just I really am so taken with taking that approach, especially with where we're at with. You and I have been talking about this a lot with artificial intelligence, and where how unbelievably complex and bizarre and ups and downs and things that issue is. Um, and I think it really, and I had mentioned this in the review, I think it really at least made me think to myself, like, with AI, okay, there's the invention of, okay, maybe voices that don't, people that don't exist, or instruments that aren't being played and whatnot. But it really was so, like, it made me really introspect and go, like, with production, in regards to like production elements, and really cleaning vocals and instruments just so, and those things, and it kind of put me in the mindset of like, are we societally almost like accepting this, or are intrigued by this because we have this like societal need of perfection, like this cosmetic,
It's like sanitizing.
need for, yes, the smoothest skin, the
Yeah.
the most, yeah, like absolutely sanitized kind of thing. And it just, yeah, it was so interesting to me to then hear something like this, where someone takes that chance to like go and do like Bruce Springsteen, Nebraska kind of an approach, or some of Bob Dylan's early work kind of thing, where you're not afraid to have a string maybe not buzz, or to have something like that happen. And it just really made me contemplate, like, have we unintentionally or whatever, maybe, we go through the complex to get to the simple thought here, like, have we developed like a fear of imperfection,
Yeah,
of like
totally.
being too caught up in that?
Totally. I mean, I think look at like we know what goes on social media. We know how easy it is to, and this is not new, right? But how easy it is to airbrush, how easy it is to manipulate how people look, how easy it is to edit things. Um, how even we're, the way people are taking photos, they put their arm like this so that it looks skinny. Like there's all sorts of ways that we are manipulating our image and our likeness to be as perfect as possible. And then, of course, I think there's probably a pretty big social epidemic of perfectionism. Um, and that cues a lot of anxiety, that cues a lot of uh, just like tension and tightness with how people approach life, thinking that they can't make mistakes. And I'm very guilty of this. Um, but I think that we're pushed to perform for others a lot, and we're comparing ourselves against unrealistic standards almost all the time. Um,
Right, the old keeping up with the Joneses adage never went away.
no, and it's only gotten worse, right? It's keeping up with the Kardashians, who have
Right.
millions of dollars to spend on not just plastic surgery, but the best graphic designers in the world, and a life dedicated exclusively to figuring out how to take pictures so that their lips look nice, and like
Right, right.
that's
Like, I mean, I would never, like, this is not a thing about saying anything about anybody's appearance. No,
no, but
no,
it's just
don't anybody come after
that's
me
their life, right?
about.
I'm not judging them. That's
Well,
literally,
no,
but that's
no,
just
no.
what
I
they
only say
do.
because, like, there was a weird thing with their mom recently, and then suddenly their mom looks younger than them. And that was very, like, unsettling in a strange way because it's like, I know how age works, like,
Right?
with
Yeah.
people. Like, this person's this age, they're this. You
Yeah.
don't just get to go back. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little wild. Something that's been interesting has been, not that this is a uniquely American problem, but having spent more time outside of America, it puts it into a little bit more of like a sharp relief. Um, yeah, man, we get old, we age, we gain weight, our skin wrinkles, like we get gray hair. I think there's something beautiful about that. Um, and I think we're all fighting against it. And I wonder how much of this is perfectionism and how much of it is just like denying our own mortality. But there's something in our society that won't let us be what we are. And so, me as a means of kind of fighting against my own perfectionism, the recording of the full album, the full LP, was a very fraught, anxious process for me. I
Really? Okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, I because I
interesting.
really, all these things we're talking about, I was working really hard to improve and put a lot of pressure on myself to perform, and was really at times like lost in the technical and in the work that I was doing. Like I was lost in the homework. And if you ask any really good performer, what they'll tell you is do the homework and then throw it out.
Right.
And that's actually something very wise that my producer told me at some point in the process. And I think what was challenging for me about this process was that I felt like I needed to have evolved. It's been a long time since I recorded that first record, and I felt like there was something like I need to be better. And
Well, like you were saying earlier, kind of breaking the expectation of I'm the guitar guy, I'm the,
right,
yeah.
there's more things I want to do. I want to be a better singer. I want to be a better guitar player. I want to be able to work in different modes and styles. I want to have evolved just as an artist and also as a musician. Um, and so I brought a lot of that kind of anxious energy, for better or worse, to the process.
Right.
Like, and
Right.
that's something that I think that, um, look, I think it's an honest reflection of where I was at. And I think it's an honest reflection of the times of when I was working on the music and recording it, anxious times. I think maybe that's almost like the defining thing about these last couple of years is both our like more public conversation about anxiety. People are more open to talking about going to therapy or feeling anxious or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
And just the I think the literal feeling of anxiety is heightened with the rise of social media, with everything going on in the political sphere, with the pandemic, and that all kind of getting beamed onto our phones at us. We're all anxious. Maybe I shouldn't speak for everybody, but most people I know are pretty anxious in a lot of times. And so I definitely brought that energy into making the album. And so long answer to your original question, coming into this EP, I was like, we're gonna do this in one day.
Really? So this was that quick?
We tracked it in one day and then we mixed it in another day. So technically 2 full days, but basically like the the performing of the songs was one day. We sat down, we played the song 3 4 times. We're like, all right, cool. Track 3 is the best. All right, let's do the next song. Play it 3 4 times. All right, take 2. That was our favorite, you know? And then like just let it be honest, real, imperfect, and whatever it was. I needed that for myself. And again, that also felt like honest and real rather than trying to do something. Just do it.
Right, right. Really kind of just being, yeah, honest with yourself and your style and your approach, because industry as it stands today, or kind of how we've, proceeded as, artists, and what the toll is to, make art and different things. I mean, was there any kind of like pushback on like on going like, hey, I made this thing and we did all this and this and this. I want to make another thing and we're going to do it in the same year, kind of thing? Or is this, again, like you're saying, that support there to like go, hey, make, do you?
Yeah, I think it's in some ways I think it's actually important to extend what you make these days because of the way algorithms and social medias and attention spans work. Um, so actually, I feel like this EP is in a lot of ways an extension of the LP and allows me to give these songs more life. And so it didn't feel like it was taking away from it, but just kind of like keeping the songs going. Um, I
Sort of an epilogue, even.
yeah, an epilogue, a continuation, another way of telling the story, um, another way of frankly, just like feeding the beast, putting something else onto Spotify, putting something else onto onto Instagram, um, and just kind of all right, I'll serve it this way and I'll serve it that way, and both of those are really important to me. Like I'm not, it's not an either or, and I think what's most important, and another reason why I wanted to do this as simply as we did it, is what's most important is the songs. And so let the songs speak. That's why, all right, we've got the really kind of complex symphonic version of the songs with all sorts of craziness going on. And then also the simple version of the songs that, all right, we're just going to listen to the voice and the guitar and the words. And I think both of those things are companions to one another. Um, and so if you're a true, David Red super fan, you get all of that together, and I think it gives you a really full picture. But also if you're just trying to find out who the heck I am, or just stumbling around the internet as we tend to do these days, kind of passively consuming what the algorithms send us, it's another shot to reach people in a different avenue.
Right, exactly. And I just, and maybe it's like a sort of a, maybe a harder sign of, what it takes to make music or what it costs to make music in 2025 and such. But I think that was the thing that kind of took me about that, was that it was like, hey, you're going back to the well again. Like, this is already like, this is really cool. This isn't like, oh, here you are, we'll see you in 2 years, or,
Yeah.
here's this, but we're gonna, it's gonna be a little bit, or some things
I
in
mean,
between.
unfortunately, you
But
can't do that anymore. Is kind of
that's what I
the
mean. Like, that's
yeah.
the hard part, the rare bird of it all.
I mean, there are a few rare birds who can do that, and they're beautifully rare. D'Angelo, rest in peace, was able to make an
Oh,
album 14 years after his hit album and still be D'Angelo. There's only one of him, you know,
oh
and
yeah. Oh my
and
God,
and
it's the closest thing we had to Prince left
yeah,
on this planet. I swear.
yeah. So and look, and I think he also established his career in a different time. Um, I still have hope that the cream rises to the top, and that like if something is truly exceptional, it doesn't matter what you're doing on TikTok, people will find it. If it's just so special and undeniable, people will connect to it and it will spread. Um, but the world moves fast, and it kind of, these systems require feeding of the beast. And it's a little bit of a cop out to say that, but like, I want to reach people and grow my career. I'm not trying to sell out to the mainstream, but I do want to find people. And if I just put out an album
Yeah.
and release it and, you know, talk about it for 3 to 5 weeks on Instagram and then go ciao for the next 2 years, kind of like I did with my last album, they're not going to find it. And so the gift and the curse of this stuff is that like there is a possibility, in a way that when I put out that EP Carolina Seems So Long Ago back in 2016, there was at that time very, very limited opportunity for that to get discovered by anyone. Now there is a way. It's still, I think, and we can talk more about this, I think Spotify is not running the way it should. It is not operating in the manner that it says it wants to, of like democratizing music and curating everything for.
Oh yeah, not an
is
equitable interface whatsoever.
not even close. But that said, it's better than when there was nothing, because I think we should all, as much as I complain about Spotify, and I will gladly complain about Spotify, 50 years ago, you were either in the major label system or you weren't, and nobody heard your music, you know? And so now there is an opportunity where somebody like you can stumble upon my music, or somebody, again, could just have one of these, you know, their Spotify radio going, and this song Teach Your Boys to Cry comes up, and they go, oh, wow, and their ears perk up. And now the thing we have to stay cognizant of and careful about is that we get suckered into these like passive listening modes, because with Spotify, it's just playing. And at least back then with the radio, a DJ would come on every 3-4 songs. You know this, you're a radio DJ. Like, all right, hey guys, that was David Red, Teach Your Boys to Cry. He's got a new EP coming out, right? And you hear the song and you hear the name and you hear somebody talk about it, and also just breaks the flow of like constant music.
Yeah. It brings you back into that conversation.
Yeah, nowadays people just are like, all right, I woke up, I opened up my Spotify, I want to see music. Okay, that thing, happy morning acoustic good times, and like boom, and it just plays for the next 3 hours, and they're barely registering what they're listening to, and that's not. I mean, sure, that's getting music heard, but at a certain point, I think that music becomes noise. That music becomes a salve against the fact that you can't sit in silence because your brain is going crazy. And I think that, like, I think it's a beautiful thing that what you do, and we've talked about this, and the importance of curators and DJs and people who speak to the music and of the music and help present the music to the world is really necessary, because otherwise we're just sheep, man. And I don't think that's good for us. Even if they're, I've had this crazy phenomenon. I can't fully put my finger on it, but my wife loves music and will just, you know, she's a person, so she will just do what I just explained, and no judgment on her. It's a systemic problem, not an individual one.
Oh yeah.
And so she'll just put on whatever, and it'll just start playing, and it'll just go in the background, and I can just tell when music isn't being listened to and it's just been on. And so it's not even like that I've been home and hearing it the whole time. I'll just walk into my house, and it could even be a song that I like, but I can just tell that this shit's been playing. That like Spotify radio has just been on for the last 7 hours, and it grates my soul. Even if it's like, oh, that's a D'Angelo song. I love that D'Angelo song, but I can just hear that it's background noise.
Right.
And I think we need less of that. I would advocate listen to less music, but just listen to what you want to listen to intentionally.
Yeah, no, really though, because I mean, even when kind of covering indie musicians and things over the years, as I've been able to do, and so many people I've loved getting to work with, and I'm sure working within their means and what they're able to release and stuff. But it's so many singles and so many EPs, and like that's great because I want your stuff to be out there and all the stuff, but it's like there's not a lot of times where it's like, oh, that's an album that's coming out. Like, that's a full experience. Like, it's just kind of like, okay, here's a taste of what I got. Here's a couple songs. Onward to the next kind of thing. But, like, I think of it as like, I miss, like, albums. Like, really hearing that, especially with smaller people trying to get heard. It's oftentimes, it's the single, it's the quick EP drop. It's the move through kind of thing. And I wish there was more like this. Like I said, that's what I think really took me even more with your stuff is like you did a full album. You had a full album here, and then it was like here's the acoustic epilogue. Here's the next like part of the story too, like right away. Like I said, as someone who like Ryan Adams making 3 albums in 1 year in 2005, that was like that was mind blowing. Like these like somebody can just go and just make it, put out stuff. And I wish we were in an era where that was more feasible for more
Yeah.
voices.
Yeah, I mean, so this kind of segues us into the AI conversation a little bit. I think that the way that these algorithms operate and the way that these platforms operate is they they want new and fresh, and they want kind of the same thing over and over again. And an album, a good album, shouldn't be 10 songs of the same thing, right? We kind of That's what the Beatles and the Beach Boys taught us, right? Back in the 60s they discovered, all right, an album shouldn't just be a list of singles, it should be a story. It should be, a beginning,
Yeah.
middle, and end with diversity and ups and downs, right?
Yeah, like Beach Boys would like Smile, and the Beatles uncorking Octopus's Garden in the middle of
Right,
something.
exactly,
Like,
exactly. And so you and I grew up on that stuff, but I think if you're opening up your whatever your streaming app is, I won't pick on Spotify. Um, they want to push you into something that they know you're going to listen to and keeps you on the platform. And that means the stuff that's more down the middle. And that means the stuff that's more readily digestible. And so, if I made an album that I think has got some singles on it, but it's weird. It's eccentric. It's got some long songs on it. It's got some interesting twists and turns. And so it's not for everyone. Not every song at least, right? And
yeah,
that that's not what Spotify is attuned to do. Their best interest is trying to give you the thing that is least likely to get you to turn them off,
right,
not the thing that is most likely to get you excited. So,
right. They're not gonna throw a Tom Waits track in the middle of
right,
like what
even if that
you're
could
listening
blow
to.
your friggin' mind, right? They would
Yeah,
rather they would rather give you something that won't upset you than risk giving you something that's a little bit weird but might change your world. And that's a shame, right? And
it is. It is because there's so much, like you said, the stuff we got to grow up on or experience. Like there's like finding Crash Test Dummies or Captain Beefheart or just like crazy things that are just like,
yeah,
what is this? I've never heard this.
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I think albums are expensive for starters. I made an album with world class studio musicians in a world class studio. Took a long time to make it. 10 songs. I can't do that again anytime soon. I just like the economic realities of that are like that's expensive, and I can't do that all the time. But also, even with that, the algorithms are only going to share the songs as they're kind of coming out and getting attention. So to make a 10-song album, you kind of have to milk it for all it's got and release 6 or 7 of them as singles, because that's the way that this thing is worked, of just like, all right,
Right.
keep it going, keep it going. All right, every 6 weeks, you got to give them another one, or they'll forget about you, or you'll fall off their timeline. Um, and
And
so,
maybe that's another part of the AI experience with this too, where you're building bands or bands and things where you can just go like, okay, we can just insert this into this thing and do this, and oh hey, yeah, you made up a poem and you can make that in 15 minutes, and then now we've got another thing, and
right, and it
like
only
you
costs you
keeping you're
$49 a
like on the
month.
treadmill.
Yeah,
Right.
I think there's a lot of value in the idea that AI can help, I hate this word now, but democratize the music making process. Um, but it shouldn't do it all for you. That's that really fine but firm line of, are you making music with a tool, or is this technology making music at your command? Those are two different things. And like, I think that there will be ways where people could find ways to use this AI music making technology to do something really interesting, really wild, sounds that we've maybe never heard of, or things that we wouldn't expect. But it's not going to be a casual user who's never played an instrument before, who's going to like blow our minds open because they like had an AI make a song out of their poem.
Right.
It's going to be an artist that's been putting in their 10,000 plus hours, who knows how to make an album the real way, and then can incorporate this weird new technology in some beautiful, mind-blowing way. But the idea that we're just going to outsource everything is crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Like you could sense the Beatles like using like, oh, okay, we could, wind the tracks back a little faster or like
Right,
little
right.
technique
I always come
things.
back to my go-to example is Stevie Wonder. When synthesizers came out, people were like, what is this? These aren't real instruments. This isn't real music. This is just technology, and it's nothing, right? And the truth is when you hear the early like synthesizers and the early music being made with synthesizers, it's being made by tech nerds, and it's not good. It's bad. But Stevie Wonder put his hands on Tonto, was this big crazy synthesizer that these two nerds made, and in his hands, collaborating with these engineers, he made Talking Book and Intervisions and Music in My Mind. And he made those crazy new technological sounds feel human, because he's Stevie Wonder. He's one of the greatest artists of all time. But you need that artist.
Right, exactly. It takes the vision. Yeah, exactly. And because I had an AI article recently, and I had sent it to you. I had gotten a response from someone who was super kind about it. They had mentioned the financial aspects and the things that it can help with in certain areas with, but that was never like what I was targeting. Like I was never saying, I'm not an AI person, but at the same time, it's that whole thing of like, even in what I do, like I'm, maybe I want to take a few words that AI comes up with and throw them together to make a title or make a little like fragment of a thing, but I'm not going to have it write a whole piece and just go, oh, done. That's the end of the story. You need the vision to really still define what you're doing. Like
Yeah.
AI is not gonna make like what you put out with this EP. Like this kind of thing is just too human, too much vision, humanity's vision to be so aesthetically smoothly replicated like that.
Yeah. And I think like, somebody said to me the other day, do you think you'd be able to tell the difference between AI music and non-AI? Like, do you think you'd be able to spot AI music? And maybe the answer is no, but I'm very confident that I won't think it's good. Like, whether or not it was made by an AI or made by a person, it might get so good that you couldn't tell, but it's not going to blow my mind. I'm very confident because it's based on it is definitionally derivative. It is based
Right.
on what has already been made, and it is trying to do something that is that is formulaic. And so it's going to make something generic. And even if it makes something that I'm sure you could tell it to make something that sounds, full of tape hiss and recorded, analog and have that kind of feel. It can recreate all those sounds. We already have plugins that do tape saturation and all that good stuff, but it's only going to recreate something that's easily recreatable. It's not gonna
Right.
it's not gonna make something I mean, here's the other problem to tie it all back. A lot of the times when Spotify just starts running and the algorithm just starts feeding you whatever it feeds you, it goes to that middle of the road stuff. It goes to that stuff that's all right, you like folk, here we go. Acoustic guitar, stomp, clap. You've heard this one before, right? Well, you probably haven't, but you've heard something like it. And so
Yeah.
AI can do that. Great. AI can do that. Great. But every time I hear that stuff, I'm like, please turn this off. This is mind numbing.
Yeah, yeah, it's derivative. It's that middle of the road. It's that, we've covered this ground. And just because you can take five artists who've done it and then mix a little bit of them all together to avoid copyright infringement, then it doesn't make it new. It doesn't make it like we were just talking about Todd Snyder. We were just talking about, Warren Zevon is a big one for me. Like, you're never going to get, like, AI is never going to see the world in the way that certain people do, that you're like, how did you make that lyric? Like, how
Yeah.
did you just make that rhyme or, like, have that opinion
AI
be,
has
like,
not
the
done as
craziest
many drugs as Warren Zevon has. You know?
Exactly, exactly. It's like one of my, I remember his Stand in the Fire live album, and David Letterman asking him about it, like, oh, Warren, this is my favorite, live album. You did such a good job, and he was just like, it's the '70s. He was like, at the time, I don't really remember making that, so like, it's these experiences that can't cross over from the digital to the physical interface
Right.
of where we still are, and I think that's where we still have, like, hope in what we're doing. I think, in the sense of, like, whether yourself as a musician, myself as a journalist, where there's still places for us to, like, to create in ways that people are going to still be searching for. They're still going to be
Yeah.
wanting to, like, hear that thing, but, like, with vision, not
Yeah.
not derivative.
Yeah. It's where I have some hope. I mean, I think that there's a growing hunger for it as people are getting more tired and waking up to the fact that they're just getting served whatever they're getting served. And again, I
The
don't want
fast
to
food.
fast food, exactly right. And I don't want to discount that there are some incredible things that have come out that have, like, Billie Eilish is entirely of the streaming era. She was a SoundCloud artist and she is as big as they get, and I think she's amazing. And I think that that's the system found this diamond in the rough and elevated her, and we have her now, and I'm very grateful for that. So it can still happen. But we're getting served a lot of fast food, and we're realizing that fast food is making us sick, and we're
Yeah.
looking for something we're looking for something that'll heal us. And I get frustrated because it feels like the platforms and the machinery and the system is so strong and so stacked against us as people, not
Right.
even just as
Right.
artists,
It's
just
like
as
it's like,
people.
your song "The End" there. It's,
Yeah.
we're not taking it said, we're talking about the big Titan machinery versus just the regular folks kind of thing.
Yeah, and like, I have very little control over that song getting heard by anybody. You know, I essentially am at the at the whim and whimsy of a machine that will control who, even of my followers, it controls who will see. People that have designated that they want to get what I'm given don't necessarily see that I put out a song, don't necessarily see that I put out an album, don't necessarily know anything is going on with me.
Yeah, you make a really good point there because I actually just had this happen today of all things. And I get into so many different artists and music. I lose track of so much because you get into so much. But there's a guy today, Tobias Jesso Jr.
Love
and
him.
he just put out, yeah, he just put out a record. I think first
I
one
had
in
no
10
idea.
years.
I love him. I love
Right.
his first record. I knew that he was like
Yeah.
writing songs for other people.
Oh yeah, like Adele and
I had
Justin
until you just
Bieber.
told me, I had no idea that he put out a record, and I am a big music fan and the kind of person that would probably go buy his album on vinyl. I am the fan
Yeah.
that he's trying to reach.
Yeah. Exactly.
But no, and I've been on Instagram and on TikTok and on Spotify a lot lately because I'm releasing an album, and I had no fucking clue that he just put out an album.
Right, exactly. The only reason I knew this is because since I was like 16 or whenever this all started with iPods and the, New Music Mondays and no just now Fridays and the whole thing, you check lists and you look through and you still don't see everything. I mean, unless you know someone or know what they're up to. And I just see him like, oh, Tobias Jesso Jr. has a new record for the first time in 10 years and it's more beautiful piano songs that like I'm all about this, but like again, nobody's covering that. Nobody's going, or even my girlfriend and I we watched the CMA Awards the other night because we kind of love to laugh at the silly country parts and enjoy some of the good ones. And there's this guy Stephen Wilson Jr. and he opened for the Lone Bellow we saw not too long ago, and he like knocked everybody's socks off. He did a cover of Stand By Me, and has this song from that Stephen King movie, The Long Walk, with Shabuzi, and he did a song with him. And the next day, everybody's like, "Who is Stephen Wilson Jr.? Who is this person?" Like it's a new, but it's that lack of getting people in front of people's eyes a lot of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, and so I guess there is still a place for the CMA Awards to do that, and it's good to hear that they are elevating under known artists like that. Um,
Yeah, at least a little bit.
at least a
It's a
little bit.
fraction, at least.
But I guess
Yeah.
what makes me frustrated most, gives me some hope, but makes me the most frustrated is the fact that the architecture is all there for these platforms to work incredibly well. And that's what they sold us. Like, we're going to democratize music. We're going to make everything's going to be available to you. We're going to help with music discovery. We're going to help you find these uncut gems. We're going to connect the world. And they did build that system. It is there. They just
Yeah.
don't tune it to do that. They tune it to benefit their bottom line and the bottom line of their investors, namely the major three record labels.
Right.
So I have some
Right.
hope that like the technology exists and the blueprint exists, but let's build this right, or let's run it with the right intentions rather than with the intentions of, okay, what's going to keep your ears on this platform as long as possible so that I can monetize my content and get ad revenue. That's not, and
Exactly.
it's
I mean,
only going to get worse on
yeah.
Spotify. It's
Oh yeah, they just bought this sample company, and I don't want to comment on that until I've actually read a little more about it. But they bought that thing, and people are really upset. And then this deal with the big three record labels, and now they're just sharing all their artists with them, and
yeah,
still trying to claim they're democratizing music, like you said.
right. It's propaganda. It's horse shit. It's I mean, look, they're going to start. They've already been for a while now prioritizing what they call production music. So Spotify, often through a series of shell companies, and Liz Pelly has a whole bunch of reporting on this if you want to go check that out. Um,
Oh yeah, she wrote a great book. I
yeah,
wanted to pick
exactly.
that
So
up. Yeah.
so they have these shell companies that kind of hides that it's Spotify, but of course it's Spotify. It's not that hard to track. But they're paying a company to pay another company to pay some musicians $300 a song, which as a musician you're like, all right, cool, $300. I don't usually get paid that much money, and to go make a song that fits a playlist, right? And all right, we need rainy mood something or other, and here's some references. Just make something like this. And I've done some of this music. I've been hired to do some of this music, and I wrote the song in 30 minutes, and it's like, there's nothing artistic happening here, but all right, you want a jangly something or other, I'll give it to you. Here you go. And then they prioritize that in their algorithms. What's even more insidious about this is what Spotify has been doing, and I'm sure this is only going to ramp up with these AI companies, is they're hiring the artists like me to make something that's very generic that I don't care about. And then they're prioritizing that generic nonsense that I don't care about at the expense of my art that I do care about.
Right.
And I can tell you the quality and intention that went into the thing that I made them is much lower. Like, I spent 2 years making this record. I spent 45 minutes making that one song. And not that quality is everything, but like, again, like I recorded this with $100 mic in my bedroom versus in a recording studio with somebody who has tens of thousands of dollars of analog gear and years of experience using it. And the intention that goes into it is the most important thing. My intention was, all right, let me just recreate something that you want, versus my intention when I'm making my art is, let me express some truth that I see in the world. And like my art or not, that's fine. I think we can all agree that you want to be listening to somebody's art rather than somebody's, all right, just make this thing. And with the rise of this AI music, we're going to just get more of that. We're going to get less art and more, all right, this fits the playlist. And nobody's coming in to tell you about it.
Yeah.
You're just on passive listening mode. You don't know that this band is AI. And it's just being fed to you. And guess what? Spotify is no longer paying artists for that. Spotify is probably owning a percentage of the masters of that AI music that they made, just like they were doing with this production music. They would pay the artists a handful of dollars, but not give the artists a cut of the royalties. So Spotify then owns 100% of the master rights. Yeah. So they're then paying themselves. They're streaming the song and paying themselves the streaming royalties. And that's only going to happen even more with the AI stuff, because they're going to take a share. I'm sure they're going to own shares and be investors in these AI music companies. They're going to then prioritize those AI songs, pay themselves, the AI companies, for the songs, which will boost the profits and the financials of those AI companies, which then boosts the shares, the stock price or whatever that these guys have in it. And it's just entirely self-serving. And there's no interest in providing you with art or quality. There is only interest in keeping your ears on the platform so that we can sell you ad revenue and driving down our costs so that we can show investors that we have the highest the highest margins that we possibly can. And holy shit, I don't want to live in that world.
No, I got to agree. I mean, I'm not going to talk out of school about where, when I worked with Screen Rant not too long ago here, but like there was a certain reliance on like list articles and quick fed, quick easy things. And, without really getting into depth, I mean, I was able to push and get a little bit of reporting about some of the AI generated groups and had some interesting responses from that. But, where you find that you're kind of given this, like, it's light work. It's all, like you said, kind of, I can spend 2 weeks figuring out this piece I want to do about music and mental health and then the death of this person in music that really mattered to me opened it up and it became this like beautiful thing. Or, I could spend a night working on, the 10 greatest like ludicrous B-sides. I don't know, like, where you're
even that would be interesting.
Like,
honestly, I think you're giving them too much
that
credit.
Would be. I don't know if there are 10. That was just really pulled,
it would be the 10 best area codes from Ludacris's song Area Codes, like.
Yes, exactly. Like you are finding out the surface information of a thing rather than really getting into like we're talking about with with this EP that that you did, where like, hey, it's an acoustic guitar, it's a guy in a room, and it's it crackles and it creaks and it's this, but there's four different moods, and you're telling stories, you have character driven things, and you have personal things, and you have you're telling a story where like it's like the same with television. Like, you can watch the reality shows or the things that just kind of surface carry you, or you can watch the things maybe they're a little slower, but you build characters and you build scenarios and you care about people
Yeah.
because it's deeper like
Yeah.
that.
I've always liked the metaphor of I want to go deep rather than wide. That feels really important, both in
Yeah,
terms of how people engage with my music or my art and like how I think about a fan base. If I've got, 50
yeah,
million people listening to this one song that's nice and easy listening, I don't think I'd be satisfied. Versus if I've got 500 people that are really digging in and sinking their teeth into this thing. And like the reason that's not just pretentious, because those 500 people are going to hit me up. I'm going to become friends with them, just like you, like they're going to
yeah,
sink their teeth
yeah.
into this and they're going to make a real human connection with me as a human being. That's why I do it. That's what makes this worthwhile. Yes, I want to be able to make money and play on a stage for more people and have more opportunities, but like you know, even some of these people that have 50 million streams on a song, they can't sell tickets because it's one song
Right.
and nobody knows who
Yeah.
they are and nobody's coming out to their show.
No, no, exactly. And you're seeing that more too with the concert ticket industry and the issues with the big guns, Ticketmaster and Live Nation and those groups there that are, messing things up, and it's making it hard to, like I think, yeah, you and I had talked about this, the other night about, young bands or whatever getting to go on tour and they're so excited, and then they come back after a couple of weeks and it's like they went through a war zone.
Yeah.
Like they're haunted by like what the toll takes when you're not making, I don't know, you don't have a $50 million bankroll and you're rolling a fleet of buses or something like
Yeah.
that.
Exactly right. No, I think it's a tough environment out there. I don't want to make this into a rant, but like I think that art and music specifically is often kind of at that leading edge or a vanguard of change. And I mean, we can even see it if you want to look on the technology or business side. Like the first industry to be disrupted was music by Napster and file sharing, right? It was the first time we even used that word disruption. And I think
Right.
that music now stands in a place where we can help, I hope, unify people against these power structures that are so clearly not working in our favor. Because people still love music. Everybody loves music and feel a deep personal connection to that music. And if we can open up enough people's eyes to the fact that the people who are serving us this music do not have our best interests in mind, I hope that can create some form of momentum. Because again, these people, I don't think Daniel Ek was like a born demon. I don't think he's just like a bad guy at his soul.
No.
I think he's been corrupted, I'm sure, by the world that he lives in and the pressures that he's under and the idea that he's a business person that has to make business decisions to improve his business. But I bet
Yeah,
somewhere,
for those of you at home, definitely take a look at that foreign investment
uh,
portfolio there,
oh
Mr.
God,
X.
it's
That
it's
was
disgusting.
quite a thing.
Yeah, Daniel Ek, the CEO of
Yeah.
Spotify, has now left Spotify to focus, I believe, mainly on AI war machinery. So
Yes.
that's where the money is,
Right.
and unfortunately, he's left
Right.
he's left Spotify in the charge of two career business people. Guys that are there to read the data and drive up the profits. And I think what's beautiful is that they've built this architecture and this system that could work really well, and we have to give them some credit for that. But I think we as a people need to like speak up powerfully enough to make them realize that what they're doing is harming us, and it's losing sight of what they set out to build in the first place. And I don't know how to do that, but we got to get that message to them, because it's getting dark. It's getting pretty dark, and I think it's only going to get darker
It is,
quicker.
especially with like vulture capitalism and the way that people are hired to come in and dismantle companies. And I've seen it with people close to me who've lost their jobs from that kind of thing. And from just somebody who comes in and is just like, I'm here to be a hatchet man. I mean,
Yeah.
I've experienced a bit of that too, even. And yeah, like you said, it's getting, the path's getting dark out there. What do we do to light the lamp before we're in twilight?
Yeah. And look, I think that there are oftentimes it is the musicians. It is the and that don't have to be just musicians, but oftentimes it is artists who can gather that force. And so I don't have that kind of cachet, right? Um, but somebody like Billie Eilish does, you know? And so that is another thing that gives me some hope. Look, it's going to require people standing up and doing something daring and maybe against their best interests business wise. Um, but it also is just going to take everybody kind of, and this isn't to say that we should like no AI, ban it all. Like no, I'm not saying that at all. I think it should be just a question of us making sure that the products that are sold to us as our only option or our main primary option serving our best interest and not their own bottom line.
Yeah,
And
even the environmental impacts I've heard with
what
AI
better
and
than music? We all want to hear good music.
right. Exactly. Like it's not. We don't want to hear music as we're going up and down an elevator. I mean, it
Nobody
keeps
likes
John
that.
Tesh employed, but I mean, otherwise,
Yeah. Nobody wants that. Like everybody's in agreement. That's one thing that the whole world is in agreement. We don't want generic elevator music. We want thoughtful, artistic music. Everybody agrees.
no, 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 for sure. So yeah, I mean, goodness knows. I mean, I'm sure we could go on probably all night and just completely lose every single person with like a 3 hour version of this. But I guess if I were to try to maybe wrap up on a note, sort of bringing it back to you as a musician, kind of what's next. I mean, obviously you just put out this EP, and there's the rollout with that, and keeping relevant, keeping hot in the algorithms. But yeah, what's next for you creatively as you're moving forward here?
Um, I think the biggest thing is I gotta get out and play these songs in front of people. I think that's the other part of this equation that we haven't talked enough about, but that also gets increasingly hard, but becomes increasingly more important is going out and playing shows and singing your songs in a room with real people who can touch you and hear you and
Yeah,
feel you.
touring life, word of mouth. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy. I haven't figured it out yet fully how to do it sustainably, but that feels like the next most important project is to go out and get in front of people and play the music. Um, but I think I think there's also something beautiful about now that this EP is out. I want to keep pushing it, and I want to give these songs the life that they deserve. Release date doesn't necessarily matter, and you should be out there pushing it if you believe in it. And so that's something I need to work on myself, is just like feeling good about, I believe in these songs. I want people to hear them. Here they are. I hope you find them. And don't just do that once. And don't be worried about annoying people, because they're probably not going to see it anyway. Do it as many times as you can until people find it. Um, but
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the flip
just
side of
keep,
that,
you
like,
don't be afraid to push yourself.
yeah, don't be afraid to push yourself. Do it earnestly. Don't be annoying about it. But like, stand by what you made is the message that I'm trying to give myself here in a little pep talk.
Yeah.
But on the other side of that is also, I think, having kind of put these songs now out in multiple versions and been promoting them for a while, something nice to feel like, all right, I can move on to something new. So what comes next is, hopefully, I haven't been writing a lot of songs lately, but hopefully some more songs start coming out, and like whatever the next chapter is, whatever the littlest smallest preview I can give you, I have no idea what it will end up being, but I just bought a bass and that feels exciting. So that's, I think, writing.
Hey, it's the little things, right?
Yeah, writing from a bass place is something I've never really done. Um, I wrote a lot of my music coming up was written on a guitar, and then a lot of actually this most recent album was written on the piano. Um, and now I came got a bass in my life, so hey, it worked for Paul McCartney. So we'll see where this takes
Right,
me.
exactly. Hey, are we going to see David Red going funky? With
A
D'Angelo
little
kind of
bit. I
funky
like.
on the
I
next
mean, I don't
one?
know if I'm the world's greatest funk bass player yet. I got some Larry Graham to listen to, but I I
Oh wow, yeah.
I think that, like, to get nerdy about music for a second, I think there's something really beautiful. I'm looking at my bass over here. I think there's something really beautiful about being able to write simply on a bass. A bass allows you to give the foundation of the song really quickly because it's both rhythm and harmony, but it's relatively simple harmony. Versus when I'm writing on a piano or on a guitar, I can get lost in, like, all right, I should throw the nine here, and maybe we should modulate that, or do a little bit of this, or move here. Versus a bass, it's like, all right, we're playing a couple of notes, and very quickly I hear the song, and that leaves space for me to then sing a melody without worrying about all the other stuff. So I'm interested to see what that brings me.
Right. Yes, exactly. And and just to kind of really fully finally circle back, I guess, is I'll draw it in a little bit here. I think that was something that you really did in a really special and really interesting way with Not All by Itself. And I would really encourage anybody. I mean, I, I always like to say, streaming is important. Stream it, of course. That's easy for a lot of people. But buy the records where you can. Buying the records is so huge. Support that way, and support David Red, because you are doing something really great here, and I'm a huge fan of it. I bought the record myself, and it's so critical to do that and keep your favorite creators going. So while I didn't have much of an intro, I guess maybe if that's all we got, I'll kind of do a little bit better of an outro here. This was a lot of fun to do. I
Yeah,
would
this is
love to
great.
be able to do this again. Check out Not All by Itself. It is out now. Check out, because I terrible at remembering titles sometimes. Love is Everything and It Will Not Save You, which has been out there in the world. Support the good music. Keep fighting the good fight, and maybe we'll see you for another one of these at some point down the line.
Yeah,
I
and
thank
go
you for
and go
doing it,
support on
David.
the back edge
And
of the beat, because everything you said about me is true about you as well. We need people championing music, curating music, like being a critic and a reviewer is a really valuable thing, and a curator. And so support Chris's work. It's really valuable, and it's really good.
yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that, because I feel like community more than anything, with where we're at and the big systems we've talked about, and the massive tower of things that we face and stuff. I think the biggest things are just building the community, even if it's just one person at a time. And I
Amen.
think we can make a lot of difference that way. This was really cool.
This is
And
great.
again, support the art, support the community, join the community, get on Substack. It's
Yeah.
fun. I'm enjoying the heck out of it, and talk music with people, interact with people, and have some realness. Realness. This is so important. I think it's with Not All by Itself, with just everybody in general that loves the music too. There's plenty of you out there. There's plenty of us out there. We're not alone in it. Go support the good stuff, and I think that's all there is to that. So again, thank you again, David, and that's about all I got for now. So
Amen.
thanks for watching, everybody, and see you on the flip side, I guess.